This is one of the top 8 matches from the 2025 Unland Cup in Seattle. The constructed tournament format was top 8 best of 3 rounds, 10 card sideboard, 50-30 deck construction, no bans or restrictions. We didn't record every pairing, but we did record one match from the quarterfinal, semifinal, and then the final itself. At the top of the screen is Mike playing Archimago, and at the bottom is Kellen playing Deathspeaker. Kellen is a player from the Portland region, so we're happy to see that in the top 8. And it looks like they're getting set up, and they're about to start game 1. Both the Archimago deck and the Deathspeaker deck are control decks that they're playing here. They're looking at their mulligans to start. And mulliganing is perhaps one of the more important aspects of these matchups at high level. When you're facing Archimago, you have to assume that, they're running Crater Eyes, they're running a lot of healing abilities, and for Kellen's Deathspeaker, it looks like he drew a Funeral Pyre in hand, which is great, and he's going to want things like that. He's going to want probably some disenchants, just in case Mike is able to get out Angel's Eggs. Things like that. You want to take away Archimago's ability or limit its ability to heal, so you can get enough damage points down to get him to door. It looks like Mike is, I can't see his entire hand, but it looks like he's pitching Black Plague on the mulligan. Black Plague, it costs 4. It's pretty good creature removal, but I think he's just opting to get some of those cycle cards instead and set him up for a better start. Kellen playing Valley of Delight for his first turn. Crucially, Valley of Delight's really important in his deck because he's running all 4 elements in this version of Deathspeaker. And he manages to get Philosopher's Stone out to help with mana costs early. Mike's going to play a step for first sight and then pass turn. Kellen drawing a spell. Tapping for a second sight. It's going to be Tower. Gothic Tower. 3 mana for turn. He uses 2 for the egg and then passes. So he's getting himself set up early here with the egg. And I believe Mike had a disenchant in his hand on opening that he kept. Yeah, I see it peeking out there. He plays a Ruins and cycles a Blink just to put it in the cemetery and draw a card. And he's going to pass it turn. Mike has an answer to remove the egg, to remove the Philosopher's Stone right now. There's not a lot of incentive to go ahead and do that early because it's not doing anything yet. The strategy for a lot of these, like control especially, is to really just stall out the game, like build up your fortifications and amass just a large amount of cards in your hand, and then get the mana base to be able to act on that and like have an explosive turn that your opponent cannot overcome or do anything to prevent. Kellen with an early Funeral Pyre just to remove that Blink from the cemetery. I don't think he had another sight in hand at that time, which is probably why he decided to play it and not keep it. He probably wanted to retain tempo with his sight drops. Otherwise, if he had another sight, it would probably have been better to hold it just to see if he could get at least 2 magic spells banished. If not 3, it just depends on if Mike would allow three magic spells to kind of sit in his cemetery. Mike is just an excellent player, and when he's playing a top end match like this, it is likely that he would try to not keep that many magic spells in his cemetery at any one time, just in case of getting caught off by a funeral pyre. Kellen's playing a color out of space on his back row. He's got a lot of mana, 4 mana, plus the Philosopher's Stone discount. But he doesn't have a play right now. He's just gonna hold it, and he's going to keep amassing options. Mike drew a sight for turn. He's going to play a Power of Flight again to cycle the magic spell into the graveyard, replenish his hand with a card, and then pass turn. Gonna draw a spell, and now he's tapping to draw a sight. And he didn't have a play last turn. Let's see if he has one now. And he does. He plays the Black Plague to remove the Root Spider that Mike put out, I believe, turn 3. End of turn, the Root Spider will die. I think Kellen was considering the placement options, either doing it like a grid space back, or in this grid space that engulfs his Funeral Pyre as well. I could be wrong, but he might be thinking if he played a Land Surveyor, he could get the Land Surveyor get the Genesis from the Land Surveyor when he plays it, and then the Black Plague would remove it, and then he'd be able to use the Deathspeaker ability to get that double value and draw more sights, because that's what I think he wants right now. He wants to build the mana base and build his hand. Mike is playing a Common Sense. He's going to look for an ordinary card from the deck, and that also pitches the Common Sense into his cemetery. So he will now have 2 magic spells in the cemetery. He's weighing his options here. He's got plenty of targets in the deck, or he should have plenty of targets in the deck, especially this early on. Yeah, he's got the Blink. And it's going into his hand. Believe he still has 2 mana. Turn. But he is going to choose to just pass the turn at this point. At the end of this turn, or at the end of Kellen's turn here, unless he can play, unless he chooses to play a minion within the Black Plague affected sites, that aura will dispel. Kellen tapping for a sight. He's going to play a step of his own. Brings his sight count to 5. His sight count to 5, so mana base from sights 5, and then the discount again with the Philosopher's Stone. He doesn't have a play yet. He's going to pass turn, and again the Black Plague will dispel. Mike is trying to decide what card he wants to draw. He's doing a spell, and then he's tapping for a sight. He's got a really full hand. He's got a lot of cards in hand. But again, both of these decks are control decks. They're very passive. They are designed to kind of, build up your hand and then have an explosive turn that your opponent can't defend against and kind of recover from. Mike's doing another Common Sense to get, I think it was another blink into his hand, and then he uses the Archimago ability to banish 3 spells to Common Sense again for another Common Sense. And I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly kind of how this works. I suspect that it has to do with like deck thinning at this point. Just because he has so many magic spells still in his hand that he could play that are low cost, and he is, you know, digging into his deck to kind of to remove them to get to the cards that he actually wants, like his win condition, which would be a Craterize, or his defensive spells like Divine Heal. Kellen taking a hard look at his hand and deciding to pass turn. And they are joking at the moment that it's not going to make a riveting video with a control deck versus a control deck, since a lot of the turns are just them looking at their hand of a very large collection of cards and choosing the pass turn. Mike played a Pebbled Path down on his back row to increase his sight count and mana base, and let's see if he has a play with 5 mana. Looks like he's, yeah. And he's gonna play a Dapperel Vampire with 5 mana and pass turn. So Dapperel now on the board. Kim's choosing to draw a spell for his turn here, and I can't see his hand in frame, but he has a lot of cards in hand. They both do. He played his Black Plague early to remove the spider, so we'll see if he has another removal option, or if he's going to let the vampire swing for a turn or two. He plays a site adjacent to the windmill that the vampire's on, which makes me think that he's getting into position for a removal here. Deathspeaker, he plays Vile Imps. I'm almost positive Kellen's running 4 in his deck, so he could play 2 Vile Imps, ping for 4, get them on the board, and again, Vile Imps, he's going to get double value on those when they go into the cemetery. He's thinking about it though, so I don't know if that's like exactly what he has in hand, or if he has something else in hand. He could have additional burn spells. He could have a lightning bolt or a magic missile. Well, the magic missile wouldn't help him right now because it's he doesn't have a projectile line to the vampire. Kellen asking Mike how many spells he has in his hand currently. I think Mike said 9 spells in his hand right now. Kellen's at 6 cards in hand. He's still thinking about his options here. No, he's going to make his play. There's 1 Vile Imp and the lightning bolts to remove the vampire. There we go. And then he's going to pass turn. Kellen had the answers in his hand, and he opted to go ahead and just remove the vampire, because the vampire, it's going to swing in for 4. It would put some pressure on him. He does have the egg to kind of counterbalance that. But as we know from the seeing what Mike had in his starting hand, he also still has that disenchant, along with a plethora of other card options. He's gonna play a blink for 2 again to cycle, draw another card, and he'll play a Kettletop Leprechaun. The Kettletop will threaten to trade with the imp, and then give Mike a sight draw on Deathright. And he's cycling again with the power of flight to get the magic spell into his cemetery and to draw a spell. Mike's passing turn. Kellen's drawing a spell for turn. He is tapping to draw a sight. And it looked like it was another funeral pyre. It's a shame that he had to tap for it, so he can't clear out what Mike has already put in that cemetery on the last turn. There's no guarantee that on the next turn it'll still be there. And he has a Feast of Crows in his hand, which is huge in this matchup versus Archimago. He's calling Crater Eyes, which, I mean, Crater Eyes is typically the primary win condition for Archimago. Archimago wants to stall the game out and thin the deck and wait until they get Crater Eyes in hand, and then cast Crater Eyes, then recast Crater Eyes, and it hits you for that last point at door. So removing that kind of turns this into a potentially even longer, more drawn out game. But honestly, I think that increases Kellen's chances of getting a victory, just removing that as an option with Archimago. He's got one more play. It's an Apprentice Wizard to draw a card. And again, with Deathspeaker, any minion with Genesis, when it dies and goes into the cemetery, he can choose to banish and get that additional value and double dip on those Genesis effects. Having play tested with Kellen a lot leading up to Unland Cup with this deck specifically, what this Deathspeaker deck does really well is it has a lot of these chump blockers with Genesis that come out and give him a lot of value with card draw, and then they act as a blocker and go into the cemetery, and then he gets to recast them again to increase his hand. Similarly to what Mike is doing with Archimago, they want to set up the board with a large mana base. They want to set up with a huge hand, and then be able to just sweep on a turn where they think they can bring you down. Mike is choosing to attack into the Violimp with the Leprechaun and trade, and then he'll draw the sight from the Deathright. That does put the Violimp into Kellen's cemetery. So now Mike has to be aware that he can recast it from the cemetery and ping anything adjacent to one of Kellen's sites for 2. Mike tapping to play. Is it a annual fair? Like Mike has a little side commentary on annual fair. I think he's pretty down on the card. He doesn't particularly like it that much, but I can only assume he's running it just in case he needs the threshold fixing. Like he just doesn't like the kind of efficiency conversion on it to have to spend the mana for the threshold. He's at 7 sites, 7 mana base. You see another common sense. I believe that is the. I believe that's the 4th common sense. He's common sensed a lot this game. At this point, I'm not sure what he is going to want to look for. I think he's just looking for his damage spells. He's going to maybe start stockpiling more of those into his hand, and then wait until he can kind of double or triple dip. Yeah, he's drawing for a lightning bolt, and then he's immediately choosing to use Archimago's ability to banish 3 from a cemetery to recast the common sense again, and yeah, again get another lightning bolt. With the Craterizes removed, I think that's kind of where he's pivoted to. He's just going to stockpile a lot of his damage spells, and he's going to try to get in and get some like burst damage onto Kellen when the time is right. And again, like I was saying before, you know, Mike hit 3 magic spells in his cemetery, and he didn't leave them there. He cast them out. Which again, if he had left them in there, I think that Kellen has a Funeral Pyre in his hand, and he could have cleared those out. Kellen playing a Grandmaster Wizard for 5 with the discount from Stone. Drawing 3 cards. And again, he's going to get a ton of value from that wizard again when it dies, and he's able to recast from the cemetery. Kellen passing turn. He opted to use the Deathspeaker ability to recast the Leprechaun from Mike's site. I think for no other reason than just to banish it and remove it from the equation. I don't even think there's any way that Mike could take advantage of that and recursion it. But Kellen didn't have another play that turn. He didn't have anything else he wanted to do with the last remaining mana he had in this pool. Kellen's asking about the notes that Mike is making, and Mike says that like for top 8 at this event, they did post all of the top 8 deck lists the night before, and so everybody had a chance to look at everybody else's deck that had been submitted. And Mike knows that in Kellen's deck, he is running a Nimbus Djinn as a win and a kill condition. So one of the reasons, again, why Kellen wants to get a bunch of cards in his hand is so he can have that explosive turn, play a Nimbus Djinn, and then drop 7 cards and lightning bolt you to door at 20. So the point being, what Mike is doing with his side notes is he's just looking at how many cards Kellen is holding in his hand and calculating if he did hold a Djinn, how much damage potential he could have on a given turn, just to see if he was within range of getting to door. I think that's what they're doing. Mike at this point opting to move up and do the dispel. And again, because he's starting his run with his damage spells, he's lightning bolting, and then using Archimago's ability to cast from cemetery and lightning bolt again. And he didn't want the egg in there because it would just the egg just undoes all of that work. Kellen playing Lighthouse, and then he's looking at his hand. He's contemplating his next move. I think this takes him a minute to ponder. He got a real good look at the majority of Mike's hand when he Feast for Crows the Crater Eyes out, and he should know that there's more damage spells in his hand. I think he had at least 2 magic missiles at the time when he got to look. So he has to know that that is coming, and the game plan is going to be more of the same of what we just saw, right? He's gonna fill his cemetery to meet the threshold of 3 magic, and then be able to cast and double cast, get that double damage in onto him, and bring him down to door as fast as he can. He's going to go ahead and... Kellen is going to go ahead and swing in with the Apprentice Wizard for a point of damage, just to get some value out of it. He's choosing to move up with the Grandmaster Wizard. I'm not sure what his thought process was on the positioning there. If he left it alone, it would at least be a screener for projectiles. He's going to cast the Vile Imp and ping Archimago for 2. And then he's going to use the Deathspeaker ability to cast the Imp from his cemetery out and ping for 2 more. So that was 4 mana out of 7, and he doesn't have any more plays this turn. He's going to pass. Yeah, and Kellen is aware that the magic missiles are still in his hand. They're commenting on that right now. If you play the magic missile, at least with the Imp there as a screener, it would soak 2 points of damage. So instead of taking 6, he'd only take 4 on a double magic missile. The problem is if Mike has enough Mike has enough magic spells that he can get into the cemetery. He has 2 magic missiles in his hand, and that represents as double casts. That represents 12 points of damage. If he can get the projectiles in. I think Kellen's thought is at least screening with the Imp. If Mike chooses to do some damage into the Imp to remove it and shoot the projectiles through it anyways, it would at least enter the cemetery and give him another opportunity to ping for 2 more points. Mike is drawing a spell for turn. And I think he's thinking about how he's going to do this, but he has a lot of damage potential in his hand right now. He's got 8 mana. Yeah, he's looking at how much mana he has, and I think he's thinking that he's saying it's not enough. Probably means it's not enough to volley him into door like on this turn. So since he cannot do that, he's looking at what his other options are here. He's tapping for a sight. And he's paying 2 to common sense. So he's common sensing for, I'm not sure what is left in his deck at this point. It looks like there's a blink up there. Looks like there's a lightning bolt. I think he's weighing his options. Like a blink, a lightning bolt, or a kettle top. He's taking the blink. Common Sense was played. It is in the cemetery. There's 1 magic spell in his cemetery right now. 6 mana remaining. 1 for a divine healing, which, again, this is why it's quite frustrating playing against Archimago. Because, yeah, you just divine healing, you undo all of that damage that you've chipped away at. And then with 3 spells in his cemetery, he's still able to double cast that lightning bolt to end his turn. And lightning bolt twice, again, is 6 points in. Bringing Kellen to 8 and putting him in the danger zone here, because we still know that he is still holding on to those magic missiles, and he has 2 in his hand. Kellen setting up for his turn. He's at 7 mana right now with the sights he has out. I think he's like debating on how to get out of this. I think he's trying to weigh like how many screeners he needs to mitigate potential projectile damage coming in. But at this point, I mean, he's also looking at like what are his win conditions at this point late game. And if he doesn't have a Djinn in his hand already, I would assume that he's trying to hold for that. He's gonna play a blink to move his avatar and cycle and draw a card. And he's thinking about what to draw, either a spell or a sight. So the fact that he's thinking about it, he's tempted to draw a sight, means that he wants 8 mana. Which it might indicate that he has the Djinn and he has a summoning sphere in his hand, which he would need 8 mana to do. To be able to play a summoning sphere, play a Djinn out on turn, and then discard down to do that rush of damage to the enemy avatar. No, it looks like he changed his mind and he drew a spell after all. And it looks like he's going to play a Land Surveyor. Yeah, he's playing a Land Surveyor. I think he's just double checking his positioning on where to summon it. And he drew a sight off of that instead. If his goal was to get to 8 mana to set himself up on the next turn, he could still do that. And it looks like he's tapping to play the sight. He's playing a lone tower. He's double checking how much mana he has remaining in his pool right now. Mike is helping him out. He played a Blink and a Land Surveyor. Those are 2 each. That's 4. They're just double checking. They want to make sure that they're playing pretty clean here. So he's got 5 mana left for turn at this point, with the extra mana from the Genesis on the tower. Five mana. He's going to play a Ruler of Thule. Ruler of Thule will charge from the back for 3 points. Mike was just double checking to make sure he had Threshold on the water, and Kellen does. Kellen's moving the Violimp. Again, I think he's trying to make sure that he has screeners for the projectiles. He's swinging for 2 with the apprentice. Once the apprentice enters that back row with the Ruler of Thule, is going to get a +1. And he left the Grandmaster untapped, I think just as a potential blocker. Mike, sitting at 8 mana, draws a spell for turn. Again, we know he has at least 2 magic missiles in his hand, which is pretty scary late game Archimago, when your health total is dwindling down. He's going to blink to get himself into a position here. I'm pretty sure he's setting up. For a magic missile volley at this point. He's choosing to step in to the site, and I think he's stepping in so the projectiles, when he casts them, yeah, there they are. The projectiles, when he casts them, they won't have to hit the Violimp. And then he cast Blink, Magic Missile, and then he recast Magic Missile by banishing 3 cards from the cemetery 1 more time. So 9 points total in, and he only needed 8 to get Kellen the door there. Kellen starting his turn now. He has an escape vector because Ruler of Thule is still in place. I would expect Kellen to run to the other side of the board, just because his only other option is, like, he sticks it out. He has some blockers, but the potential for Mike to have another damage spell to seal the game here is pretty high, and I don't know if he was keeping track of how many lightning bolts, how many magic missiles had been cast at this point.
Humble brag. What?
Mike is just casually letting Kellen know at this point that the Life Tracker app that he's using for Course was programmed by him. So they're just having a fun conversation about that right now. Kellen was not aware of that when they played this game. So that was just kind of a fun moment that he had, and he's just joking that Mike is just letting him know to distract him and tilt him right here at the critical moment of the game. But they're just having fun. They're just having fun and joking about it. Yeah, Kellen's gonna go ahead and take that escape vector to the other side of the board. And he's going to go ahead and swing and attack into the site. He might as well if he's going to move there anyways. Ruler's swinging for 3 points. the wizard can swing for 2. He's just deciding where. Yeah, he still gets the buff from the ruler. The land surveyor again gets to move across the back rows and attack for 2. Grandmaster gets the swing for 1. And the Violamp gets the swing in to Archimago for 2 points to attack for 2. It's a big turn for Kellen. He brought him down to 3 within reach here. And honestly, like he needs to be able to seal the deal. Just to get him to door. Otherwise, the fear is that he's going to have another Divine Heal in his hand and just shoot right back up out of range for Kellen. I think he has a kill. There it is. So he did have a Djinn in his hand. He plays it, and he is discarding a card to take him to door. I think technically this was a minor misplay because it's a random roll and the imp is there as well. So he should, they should be doing a random roll. But Kellen also has so many cards in his hands that's like, you know, like it's a statistical non-issue. Like he can bring him to door at this point. Mike is setting up on his turn here. And he plays a Titan to immediately strike for the final kill. And they'll go to game 2 in this match.